Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Two Cooks Talking. I am one of your hosts, Nguyen. I'm not an expert in cooking. I just really enjoy it and I enjoy food a lot. With me is my co-host, executive chef Mike Weller, who is an expert on food. So go ahead and say hi to everyone, Mike.
Evening, everybody.
So, continue on from our last discussion of pantry essentials. We kind of want to continue where we left off, which is, going right into vinegars is probably a good idea, since we did leave off on oils. I think is the last thing we talked
Yeah.
about. So, let's talk vinegars. So, so Mike, I don't know if you want to just kind of dive into before we even go really that far into vinegars, just kind of the process of vinegaring. If you want to explain, the science, mothers and things like that.
Yes, it's a mother. It's the byproduct of a wine going bad. Originally, it was an accident. It wasn't an intentional thing. The role of vinegars was more often played with fruit juices, with verjus. Verjus is the juice of an unripe grape, and so that acidic component in food was more frequently played by just underripe fruit or fruit with a natural acidic bite to it, like a citrus. But wine goes bad even with modern technology. Wine went bad a lot more frequently, as they would say back in the day. And they discovered that it provided a wonderful component to a flavor profile. Acids do a lot for food, including increasing uh, how much you perceive salt. So oftentimes when you think food needs a little more salt, the addition of a vinegar will actually accomplish the same thing without adding any additional salt.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I didn't even know that vinegars were kind of a byproduct of wine.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, Now, kind of explain what a big component of vinegars and the production of vinegars is a mother. So, from what I understand, it's kind of like a flat disc-shaped bacteria that just kind of floats in there. I don't know.
It's it's ugly. Um, it's a living organism that looks like mucus that kind of floats on the top of a food source, and it converts sugars into acids as a byproduct of it feeding on the sugars.
Okay.
So
All right. So I guess we can go right into what we feel are essential vinegars. I know for me, I use rice wine vinegar. A lot of my Asian heritage kind of calls for that, but I use it because when I make fried rice, it has a nice little acidic bite to it that I like. And then yeah, that's probably one of my main ones. And then balsamic is what I usually use for salad dressings. Yeah.
I would add. I love sherry vinegar. I love finishing off sauces, particularly meat sauces, with a couple drops of sherry vinegar. I think it's one of the areas where you need to spend a little bit of money. The difference between a $4 sherry vinegar and a $12 sherry vinegar is tremendous.
Hmm.
It is not the range that balsamic vinegar is. I love off the shelf balsamic vinegar. It's useful for all kinds of things. Um, but it's an entirely different food than actual balsamic vinegar aged 25, 50, 75 years.
Mm.
That's rarefied, high end. Nobody's pantry has that as an essential in it.
Yeah.
But right off the shelf, sweet, vinegary, balsamic is a wonderful ingredient.
Hmm. Um, I know another one that I use quite often is apple cider.
Hmm.
I think that stuff. I'm one of the weirdos that actually really enjoys the taste of apple cider vinegar by itself. So it's supposed to be great for your health, and I actually really enjoy just taking a little sip of it. It's not bad.
When I'm not feeling well, my
Mm.
wife will make a tea out
Mm.
of habaneros and cider vinegar and a couple other ingredients. I love cider vinegar. I could just drink it straight,
Yeah.
limited quantities, but I love the flavor of it. I like it in a vinaigrette. I just think it's a really good base ingredient.
Yeah, I think a funny anecdote that I have is: are you familiar with miracle berries or M berries?
Yes.
Okay, have you
Yeah.
ever used a miracle berry?
Used, no. I've played around with them.
Oh yeah,
But I've never
yeah,
intentionally. I mean, theoretically, you could use them. Like
right, yeah,
you could put them in as an ingredient deliberately in order to impact the palate of somebody who is eating your food.
yeah.
But
So
no.
to let the listeners know what a miracle berry is, it's a an African fruit. Is that right?
Hmm.
An African fruit that kind of changes the taste of bitter and acidic components to not necessarily change them, but just mask them so that the sweetness comes out more.
Right. It blocks your ability to sense sour.
Yeah, yeah. And so, one time on a lark, my wife, I, and our cousin and I decided to do a miracle berry test, and we tried it with lemons, we tried it with apple cider vinegar, we tried it with Guinness, just tried it with different things just to see what it can do to the flavors. I tried it with black coffee, which evidently, if you do it with black coffee, it just tastes like hot water. So when you add a little sweetener, then it changes things quite a bit. So it's actually a very cool thing. I don't think it's bad for you. I haven't heard anything bad for you. It's been used in Africa for as a you know oop, got a motorcycle in the background. It's been used in Africa for many years to disguise medicinal flavors that comes with a lot of their medicines. So if you have a chance, I definitely recommend it. My favorite is grapefruit with miracle berry. It becomes the most amazing grapefruit you've ever tried.
I think not only is it fun, it's a great way to, like you said, have friends or relatives over and just experiment and have a blast.
Yeah.
I think it's also really important if you're thinking about flavors and flavor balancing and flavor profiles of food. It's remarkable how much sugar is present in a lot of food that we don't think of as sweet. And so tasting a lemon without being able to taste the sour and realizing how much sugar is present in a lemon, that impacts your use of lemon.
Yeah.
So sugars help mellow out capsaicin chili heat. They mask some of the spikes of chili heat, whether you know they're there or not. So lemon juice will knock a couple blocks off the spike of heat from a chili, not because it's sour, but because it's got so much sugar in it.
Right, and
So
that's why I like the combination of chili and lime go amazing together. If you ever go to Buffalo Wild Wings, habanero and mango is a flavor that they have that go really well together, and I think for similar reasons. Uh, and then I guess what brought me to that subject was the vinegars because I did apple cider vinegar with the miracle berry, and it is amazing. It tastes great. So I really do recommend people try it just to have fun with it. All right. Do you have any other vinegars on your?
uh, becoming more and more available is kind of so first from the get-go you kind of have to admit as an American consumer when we say balsamic vinegar we are blaspheming the Italian culinary
Oh yeah, I'm
gods.
talking about the garbage,
Right,
like
and so
grocery
am
store
I,
stuff.
and
Yeah,
I can play food snob games with you, but I
yeah,
like the cheap.
yeah.
There's also a white balsamic vinegar, which does a lot of the same things. It's a combination of some complexity, some sweetness with the vinegar, sourness, and the white balsamic has the advantage of not discoloring things.
Mm.
So you can use it in a vinaigrette and not change your oranges to a black and orange color, but just keep the orange color shining through. Just as a
And I guess kind of taking a step back, we use balsamic vinegar. What exactly is balsam? Is that what you're talking?
so a balsamic vinegar is a vinegar that is produced from particular grapes, made into a particular wine in a particular region, Modena, Italy, and it's aged, intentionally allowed to evaporate off and concentrate in flavor in succeedingly smaller wooden casks,
Mhm.
each of the casks made from a particular wood. And at the end of 5, 7, 12 years of aging in a particular region in Italy, then it's sampled by a consortium which decides whether or not it qualifies as fine enough a product to get the stamp to be labeled and called actual balsamic vinegar.
Wow. So,
So
as opposed to the stuff you can find in the grocery store, that's
got caramel color and sugar.
okay.
And not to knock it, not to knock it.
Yeah.
You know, the bottle you buy for $10 on the grocery store shelf does a lot of the same things. It's sweet, it's sour. It adds a wonderful richness and some complexity to food. There's a reason why the 25-year-old balsamic vinegar costs $100 and you serve it with an eyedropper.
Mm.
I don't have any in my pantry. Times aren't that good.
Yeah.
But I have had it. I have had a tiny drop on the corner of a piece of Parmesan cheese. I've had a strawberry just barely touched with real balsamic vinegar. And the flavor experience lasts for minutes. I mean, it's incredibly complex and deep and evolving, and it's wonderful, amazing stuff. But it's not something you reduce and paint a plate with.
Yeah. Okay. It's yeah. You don't mix it up with olive oil and then throw it on your salad. No.
Nah, not even really good extra virgin olive oil. No, no, no. But it is a wonderful thing.
And then we can go right into more of the staple vinegars, like white wine vinegar is what people have, not even just for cooking in their houses. They use it for all sorts of stuff. I know
You can also get a distilled white wine vinegar
yeah,
that
yeah,
people use for cleaning. I
yeah,
mean, it's really effective as a cleaner,
yeah.
particularly with glass. In restaurants, we use it to clean the glass trays that we arrange cold food on, or wipe down with a white wine distilled vinegar,
Just to get rid of any bacterial cases that you may have.
and shine it right up.
Okay. And then you see red wine vinegar as well. I never really use red wine vinegar. The only time I ever really encounter is if I get a sandwich from Subway, and that's the vinegar they have. So, oh,
I have red wine in my cabinet,
uh,
red wine vinegar. I use more red wine vinegar than white wine vinegar.
mm,
It does carry a couple more flavors to it, but it's not my go-to vinegar.
right.
It is a good option to have. The One of my favorite things to put on an oyster is a mignonette, which is vinegar, shallots, and black peppercorn, red wine vinegar, and it's wonderfully complex. And the peppercorns help bring out the shallots are sweet, and the peppercorns help bring out the fruitiness of a red wine vinegar, and then that sour, sweet, sharp edge to it, put on the briny oyster, is a classic accompaniment.
Okay. Now, I guess going on what you're saying a little bit, help explain to the listeners what is a vinaigrette. Because I don't really know what makes a vinaigrette a vinaigrette.
Vinegar.
Vinegar? It's just vinegar?
It's vinegar and a fat.
Okay.
So classic. It's a fat and a vinegar, put together either permanently or temporarily. So you can oil and water doesn't mix. That's
Right.
a classic. Oil and vinegar won't mix. If you see some places serve bread with a little pool of extra virgin olive oil in a bowl, and they put in balsamic vinegar, and it makes that kind of light show bubble
Yeah.
of balsamic floating,
Kind of like a lava lamp.
like a lava lamp. Yeah,
So,
they don't mix.
yeah.
With a vinaigrette, you intentionally mix them.
Okay. So, kind of what we're talking about using emulsifying agents probably help with that, but usually it's just the vinegar and the oil.
So that's the difference. You can make a salad dressing and shake the oil and vinegar rapidly or whisk it rapidly, and it will come together enough to dress a salad with, but it won't stay emulsified without an emulsifier. Something like a mustard or an egg yolk, common thing to hold the little droplets of oil from when you shake an oil and vinegar, what you're doing is breaking the oil up into little tiny spheres. The problem is when one little globe of oil meets another globe of oil, they
Big
come
bond.
together and get bigger.
Yeah.
And in a matter of seconds, you can separate out the oil and the vinegar. An emulsifier coats the outside of the fat drop with an emulsifier so that it's totally surrounded by another substance and it can't unite with another fat. It keeps them separate. And so by keeping the fat from coming together, it keeps the fat dispersed. It keeps the vinaigrette from breaking.
Okay. It's good to know.
And it's classically 3 to 1. It depends on the strength of the vinegar and the type of oil.
And 3 to 1, we're talking
Uh,
three.
3 parts oil, 1 part vinegar.
Right. Okay.
And if you want to get really fancy
Hmm.
and you want to put $10 down for your salad on a menu instead of five, you make it with citrus juice instead of vinegar and you call it a citronette. And you are technically correct,
Yeah,
but
but it
but
shouldn't really be
give me a
that much
break.
expensive.
Yeah, give me a break.
Okay. So of those vinegars, you said that red wine isn't typically the one you reach for. What is the one you typically reach for?
More often than not, in a apple cider vinegar will probably be the first one I reach for.
Yeah.
I happen to have a Meyer lemon tree in my backyard. I use lemon juice as often as I use vinegar, and as a component in something, in some kind of food, sherry
Okay.
wine vinegar is my default.
Okay. Yeah, I like I said, I use rice wine a lot. It's a little more mellow
Hmm.
than the other ones. And then you were going to citrus. I love lime. Lime is a big thing in Asia, and then also in the southern parts of the U.S. Lime is huge. So
Hmm.
I love the flavor of lime. I put it on when I have it. I'll pretty much use it immediately. So okay, I guess going a little tangentially off the vinegar tip, we can go into hot sauces since
I think there's a
yeah.
perfect bridge between the two.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the classic like Tabasco, which is just like straight vinegar and chili, right?
I mean, there's a reason. We're both, we know each other. We're both really fans of hot sauces,
Mhm.
and there are hot sauces. There are hot sauces, but if we're talking about pantry essentials, before any and all others, it's Tabasco. You
Yep.
just bow at the altar. There's a reason it's an ingredient,
Mhm.
and one of the big reasons is it's aged vinegar.
Mhm.
It has subtlety and nuance, and it has a whole ton of vinegar in it that really perks food up.
Mhm.
It's probably the last of the. Right now, as a guess, I have 25 hot sauces on my refrigerator door.
Mhm.
That's conservative. And Tabasco would be the last one I would grab to put on food as a condiment, but it would be the first one I would use when making food.
Hmm.
I love Tabasco. I think I have a fondness for the classic Tabasco. I also like the green and I like the Chipotle versions.
The chole one is what I enjoy.
Yeah, they're not bad.
Yeah.
But again, it's Tabasco sauce, and then we can talk about hot sauces
Yeah.
because it of if there was a common ingredient in chef pantries, I I would venture to say that Tabasco would be one of the common ingredients in chef pantries.
Yeah, Tabasco is kind of one of my gateway hot sauces. When I first started really getting into hot sauces, that's kind of the first one I've kind of grown out of it a bit, just because I do think it's a bit too strong in flavor for me. It doesn't offer a lot besides heat and vinegar for me. So I kind of ventured out there, but of course, the probably the trendiest hot sauce on the planet comes from my homeland in Vietnam is Sriracha, and you'll find that pretty much everywhere now, especially in the Bay Area, which is the trendiest is trendy food places. Sriracha is the hot thing.
You know,
No pun intended.
very nice. New York probably edges San Francisco out for trendy, but it's the other coast.
Yeah.
So, and grab onto your sriracha because it's going away.
Is it really?
It's
They
gonna
say
go.
that, but
It's gonna go.
you think?
I think give it another 2 years. Korea is gonna bump Vietnam off the map.
Oh yeah, yeah, and that's a great segue into the other sauce because we talked a little bit on Facebook. We didn't go really much into it, but Goji Jiang is one that I've been using a lot more. It's great for just adding a sweet garlicky kick to any food. I put it in my meats. Like if I'm cooking up some ground beef, I'll throw a little tablespoon of gochujang in it. You did mention it's a paste,
Hmm.
so it's a little more unwieldy than a sauce would be, or an already prepared sauce like a sriracha or a Tabasco.
Hmm.
But it's amazing. I don't know if you want to go more into what gochujang is.
It's fermented. I
Yeah.
mean, that gives it a nuance and a complexity. It's it's not. So one of the things I most like about Tabasco is its dead on what it is. Like you said, it's aged chilies in vinegar. It's not subtle about it, but it's a known thing, so it's easy to use as a component. Often hot sauces aren't integrated as much, but put on at the end as a condiment. And so complexity of flavor and a range and a depth of flavor comes through much more strongly than if you put it on the hamburger when the hamburger's done cooking. It's going to be more evident its complexity and everything than if you mixed it in as part of a meatloaf. So I think we'll have new hot sauces. I think we'll continue exploring hot sauces, and we'll see where things go from there.
Yeah. And then you were talking about fermenting. Fermenting is kind of just another way of saying aging, really, right? No, it's a little more than aging.
It's a specific thing where through the byproduct of living organisms, food is changed and acids are created that preserve food and a complex range of flavors happen. So an authentically made dill pickle is fermented. Kimchi is fermented.
Right.
There's a process that happens that builds up antibacterial acids in a food. And these acids add to the complexity and range of flavor. And depending on the current state of research into such things, I think fermented foods have been getting a kick from their benefits from a probiotic angle to whatever depth that ends up panning out as a health resource.
Um, yeah, we could talk more in a future episode about a little bit about the food sciences, but I'm always very skeptical about the holistic aspects of foods when people say it has any sort of healing properties. But there's lots of historical evidence, but we can talk more in depth about that later.
I think that's a good long discussion.
Yeah.
I have a background as an instructor in food science. I more often find myself quibbling with the detrimental effects of ingredients than the beneficial effects of ingredients. But
That's true.
I want evidence in either direction. So.
Yeah. So staying on the hot sauces, I mean, we could talk more about Goji Jiang. We didn't really talk a whole lot about it. It is a Korean, it's fermented soybeans with, was it chili, garlic, sugars?
Chili, garlic, sugar,
Yeah.
and prodigious amounts.
Yeah. It's a big kick in the mouth. It's just an explosion of flavor. It's really good stuff. It's great for soup bases, things like that. Just where the paste can actually like kind of mellow out some.
A little bit, yep.
Yeah. But like I said, I use it with meats, and it's really great there too. It's in Korean barbecue. It's in Goji Jiang is used a lot too. And then another hot sauce that I like is Cholula. In my fridge right now, the hot sauces I have are Sriracha, Goji Jiang, Cholula. I think I might have a bottle of Tapatio that somehow got in there, but it's pretty much my Tabasco substitute. Just I find them fairly similar. I like Cholula. I feel like it has a little more, I don't know, flavor to it than Tabasco does. It's more than just the heat and vinegar to me.
I have, like I said, I conservatively have 25 bottles in the fridge right now. My all-time go-to as far as a bottled, prepared hot sauce brand is a brand known as Pain is Good. They have various formulas, and their garlic hot sauce is probably one of my all-time favorites. Big picture of a bald guy screaming on the front label. Pain is Good kind of summarizes a lot of things. For the record, people when they talk about tastes, 5 basic tastes, chili heads often want to say that spiciness is a basic taste or flavor, and it's not. It's the sound of your body dying. It signals to your brain that you're being hurt.
Yeah, it's your body rejecting this, right? Yeah.
So, now this doesn't mean I don't love it.
Yeah.
It's either but don't try and claim any kind of primal basis for. No, you way back when they first started extracting pure capsaicin, which is the element in a chili pepper that gives it the heat.
Yeah.
They came out with complete with warning labels and signs you had to, or contracts you had to sign. They came out with a hot sauce called Endorphin Rush, which was ridiculous. It had no flavor. It was just spiked with capsaicin to be as hot as it could possibly. At that point in time, you're no longer talking about culinary adventures. You're into a different realm entirely.
Yeah. Yeah, like think about that. Like you have some of the hottest peppers in the world, like ghost peppers and Carolina Reapers, which if you've never seen a Carolina Reaper, just Google that image because the fruit has a tail, and if the fruit has a tail, I don't trust it. So I you know I can appreciate people going to great lengths to uh, to breed these crazy peppers. I don't quite get the practical purpose because I've never tried it. I don't know if there's a super complex flavor I'm missing, but when you're reaching a million on the Scoville index, I don't know if how much flavor you're actually really getting from that.
There is a point, and the point might vary with palates, but there's a point where, like I said, you're beyond a culinary usage for
Yeah,
things.
yeah,
I have used habaneros.
yeah.
I've tasted ghost peppers. I've not done a Carolina Reaper. I don't really have an urge to, but I've actually done food out of. At Halloween, I serve an hors d'oeuvre with a little quarter of a habanero, apricot jelly, goat cheese, and a sprig of thyme.
Mhm.
Now I take all the seeds out and all the veins out.
Right.
And an habanero actually has an apricot-y,
Yeah,
fruity kind
it's
of
great.
flavor to it. But that's about the limits for me.
Okay, so you've tried a ghost chili. Where how would you apply that? What's the flavor profile of a ghost chili?
Hot.
Hot.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that they kind of go over the the point where you get other flavors out of it. I kind of draw a line at Scotch bonnet habanero
Okay.
for where I'm able to find a palate-based purpose.
Mhm.
But I'm willing to admit that some people might find a culinary use for a ghost pepper. But I think it's remarkable the changes. I mean, fast food chains are talking about ghost pepper chilies.
Yeah, I want to say Wendy's has a burger on the menu that has like a ghost pepper aioli mayonnaise type of deal.
Yeah,
So,
and you don't have to put a lot in it to call it what it is, but you're not selling an awful lot, right?
yeah.
You're not putting a whole ghost chili into each hamburger.
Well, what about comparing it with like a dairy element to kind of, people that don't know about peppers, the best way to counteract capsaicin is dairy. Milk is a great way to get rid of it. I know bread is also a good way, but I think bread is more of a physical standpoint. It just kind of scrapes it off your tongue, whereas milk is actually kind of diffuses it some. I don't. Yeah.
It can. You have to be very careful, but because capsaicin's fat soluble,
Uh-huh.
so you have to be careful not to just spread it further.
Okay.
Um, Sugar is a really effective remedy.
Well, I like sugar in the sense that it just makes it taste better. I don't know how much of a remedy it is, but it makes it better.
Yeah, I was amazed one year, many years ago. I did a habanero and sweet potato salsa for a party, and my sister, who is a notorious wimp, walked over to the bowl, and I kind of just shut up and grinned and waited for the fireworks.
Yeah.
And there was enough sugar in the sweet potato, and it had sat long enough that it totally undercut the habanero, and she loved it, and I was very disappointed.
So I'm just thinking about cooking with peppers. Is there, what? How do chilies, peppers, capsaicin react to heat? Does it not change? Does it intensify? Does it?
It doesn't intensify.
Okay.
It it doesn't really affect it much.
Okay.
You're certainly it's not quite as bad as oversalting a food,
Mhm.
but once a certain level of heat has hit your food, there's no backing it off.
Okay.
Unless it's one of those rare dishes where you can add more sugar and not screw
Yeah.
it up by adding sugar,
Yeah.
you're kind of doomed.
Okay. So it doesn't ease off. You just rebalance it.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, And then you were talking about the endorphin rush. One of my favorite things about hot sauces is just the ridiculous names that they have. I got you a bottle of hot sauce, I want to say a year back, called Sphincter Shrinker.
Yep.
Yeah, I,
That had a raisiny background to it.
I
I really enjoyed it. That had so different hot sauces play with the sugar elements in different ways. But
mhm.
yeah, this sphincter shrinker was a raisin based, and I believe it had ghost pepper or one of the higher level
Yeah, I think so.
chili pepper heats to it. It was a really good hot sauce. I
Yeah.
enjoyed it a lot.
I contemplated whether to get you that one, or else I saw another one that had used capsaicin extract, like the endorphin rush. But I just thought the name of the Shrinker was just edged it out for me. So,
You've got to remember, very early, moved out of my parents' house. I was like 17, working at a restaurant.
and for
Didn't have
those that don't know, that's the early 1900s, something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right about then.
yeah.
Yeah. We the restaurant where I worked decided to put a pickled jalapeno on every one of their taco salad plates, and it went nowhere, and we kept throwing it out. Nobody ate them, and so we had one number 10 can left, and the manager just was disgusted, and he was going to throw it out. And I asked if I could take it home, and he said sure. And I didn't have a lot of other food, and I had 2 days off in a row, so I just opened up my number 10 can and munched on pickled jalapenos all weekend. And very early in my culinary career, discovered that you have to deal with the heat twice.
And that's where the name Sphincter Shrinker
There
comes
you
in.
go.
Okay, I don't know if are there any other sauces that you want to cover?
I think it's a fun a fun exploration to make if you like spicy food, and I would recommend avoiding the ones that have capsaicin added as an ingredient, refined and removed and then added back into.
Right.
And other than that, just be adventuresome. Have fun with the labels. Have fun with the names.
Oh, I just remember before I go, there is one hot sauce that I'm really into, and that is hot oil. I talked about that last week. It's something
Hmm.
that I've been really getting to lately. I got the recipe off of a YouTube channel. I believe it's Strictly Dumpling. It's peanut oil, um, cook some what we talked about last week, Sichuan peppercorns. Cook that in the peanut oil. Discard the Sichuan peppercorns because after a few minutes, that's all you really want, just the numbness of the Sichuan peppercorns. I throw in some peanuts after that, just to give it some more texture. And I love the taste of peanuts. And then finish off with some red chili flakes, which I got from Berkeley Bowl here. Which I'm not huge on the. I think the flakes I get from the Asia market are a little sweeter. I think the Berkeley Bowl ones taste a little more burnt to me. But yeah, that's the basic components. I'll finish it off with sesame oil and sesame seeds, and usually a little salt. But yeah, that stuff is now my go-to. That is awesome stuff.
I like it for its versatility
Mm.
because sometimes I dig down into the chunky bits,
Mm.
and sometimes I just need a drizzle of the oil.
Oh
You
yeah.
can use it either way.
Oh yeah.
It's really nice that
Yeah.
way.
Okay. All right. Well, that covers Pantry Essentials Volume 2 of Two Cooks Talking. Uh, Once again, I'm your host, Long Nguyen, and my co host was
Mike Weller.
Mike Weller. And we'll catch you next time on Two Cooks Talking. Thanks.